RBKC's Licensing Subcommittee, and thank you for attending. The hearing is being live streamed. I'm Councillor Janet Evans, and I will be chairing this meeting. The committee for the hearing comprises Councillor Marie-Therese Rossi and Councillor Toby Bentham and me. We are joined by Fiona Johnson from the Council's licensing team, our legal officer, Lindsay Lemasurier, and also with us is our committee officers, Holly Weaver, Jerome Treherne, and Tommy Hamler. Now, before we start the hearing for this case, just a few ground rules. Please keep your microphones on mute until you are invited to speak, as only 2 microphones can be in use at any one time. And please make sure your mobile phones are on silent. Thank you. So, the case before us today is to grant a license for Montparnasse Cafe, 22 Thackeray Street, London W85ET. Now, for declarations of interest, I confirm that I have no declaration of interest to make regarding this item. Do the other members have any declarations to make? Councillor Rossi?
No declarations to make.
Councillor Benton?
No declarations, Chair.
Thank you, colleagues. Now for the procedures. For clarity, I will briefly outline the procedure of the meeting, which has already been circulated with the papers. First, the licensing officer, Ms. Johnson, will give a brief outline of the application. Please, could you confirm your attendance?
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Then I will ask the applicant's legal advisor, Mr. Stuart Gibson, to present his submission. He will have up to a maximum of 10 minutes to do so. He is joined by his client, Ms. Mariam Laidi, who will be able to assist members should they have any questions. Please, could you both confirm your attendance?
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Then questions may be asked by members of the committee of the applicant, followed by questions from the legal advisor and the objector. Next, the objector. Mr. Peter Oyen, thank you, will present his objection. He will have up to a maximum of 10 minutes to do so. Please, could you confirm your attendance? Thank you. Then questions may be asked by members of the committee to the objector, followed by questions from the legal officer and the applicant. After this, we will ask our legal officer, Ms. Lemasurier, to lead on the draft conditions session. The list of potential conditions has been circulated to all of the parties prior to the hearing. Please, could you confirm your attendance?
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Then finally, we will turn to the governance team to see if any issues have been raised that we need to consider. There will be no summing up, and the meeting will end. I would like to remind everyone that the committee has read the papers, which comprise the main pack that has been circulated to the parties, so there is no need to repeat their content, but please do draw our attention to certain points and pages. Let's get going. Ms. Johnson, please can you outline the case for us and advise if there has been any additional documentation received?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning all. Today's application has been submitted by L'Étranger Limited for the grant of a premises licence in respect of Montparnasse Cafe, 22 Thackeray Street, London W85ET. A copy of the application can be found at Appendix A. The application was subsequently amended on the 19th of November, as can be seen on page 20 of the main bundle. A copy of this email detailing the amendment was sent to all those who submitted representations on the 21st of November. A summary of the application as it now stands can be seen on page 6 of the main bundle and can be summarised as follows. Retail of alcohol on the premises, Monday to Sunday, 12 o'clock to 21:30 hours, and sale by retail of alcohol for consumption off the premises, Monday to Sunday, 12 o'clock to 2200 hours. The application attracted 9 representations opposing the application, including one from Kensington Square Residents Association. A summary of the representations can be found on pages 8 and 9 of the bundle, and copies can be found at Appendix C. At the time of writing the report, no noise complaints had been received in the preceding 24 months. No temporary event notices have been submitted in the past 12 months. There are no planning restrictions or conditions which the subcommittee should be aware of, and a copy of the planning officer's comments are attached as Appendix D. Chair, I'm not aware of any additional documents that have been circulated, so that concludes my summary today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Now for the applicant's case. Mr. Gibson, please can you advise if there have been any amendments to your application?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, councillors. There is one slight amendment that I'd like to offer the committee this morning. As quite rightly said, off-sales are permitted until 10 p.m. The off-sales in this case is to serve the outside terrace area. That's how that is going to be dealt with. The applicant has no desire to sell off-sales in the traditional form, as you would do, say, go to Tesco and buy a bottle of wine and take it home. So traditional off-sales are not requested in this application, which would mean all licensable activity ceases at 21:30, with the doors locked at the latest by 10 p.m. That is the only slight amendment to the application, Chair.
Thank you. You're okay with that? You have that? Yeah. Okay. Now, any questions first from the committee? Oh, no, you haven't presented your submission, so sorry.
Thank you, Chair. As you've heard, I take the point, you've read the papers, which I'm grateful. This is a simple application, to be fair. It's a French cafe that is looking to offer choice, to allow customers to perchance have a glass of wine with their food, or come in and have a glass of wine or a bottle of beer. And that is the sum total of the alcohol on offer. It will be wine and bottled beers. As you've heard, there is no planning constraints that prevent the premises staying open later in the evening. And we have asked, or we've agreed in conjunction with Environmental Health, that the last licensable activity, as I mentioned, would be 21:30. This means that these premises close before all other premises in the area bar one. There is a premises called Valentino who cease at 2100 hours. So these premises ceasing at 21:30, the majority, well, all other premises after that are open either till 11, midnight, so forth. The point being, Chair, is when the customers leave the premises here, there is activity, licensable activity carrying on around it. There's a pub over the road, etc., where licensable activity continues. This is a particularly small premises. There are 9 tables indoors with 2 seats per table, so that you have a capacity of 18 inside. And you have this parklet terrace area outside where there are a further 8 tables of 2 seats. So there would be 16 people outside. So in the unlikely event that a cafe stroke restaurant is full at terminal hour, and we all know how restaurants operate, that's not the case. People come and go and leave at different times. If in the unlikely event it was absolutely full on a summer's evening, there would be, if my maths serve me correctly, 34 people leaving the premises at 9:30 in the evening. The Environmental Health negotiated with us through this process, and they asked for certain conditions to be added to the licence, which my client was happy to accept. So now we have the Environmental Health, who you're well aware are the custodians of the prevention of public nuisance, and in this case the noise issues, support the application. The police, the the main players in the prevention of crime and disorder, have never had a concern with the application, and therefore have been willing to support the application going forward. We're told in the guidance, Chair, that we must place great weight on the evidence of the police. Now, surely that applies when there is no evidence from the police, that they are more than happy with this application to go forward. The reason, Chair, for this application is quite simple. It's necessary to maximise the business opportunity of my client. We all know the troubles and the problems that we are suffering as a nation, and certainly in retail and hospitality at the moment. We've just come from we seem to be lurching from one crisis to another. COVID, interest rates. We thought things were going to change when we changed the government, but no, here we are again with a budget of last month which is crippling for businesses such as my clients. They're looking to ensure that they can get the most out of their business and able to continue to trade. This is a business, Chair, that's been running for 28 years. 1996 this business was established, and they're looking now to make sure they can continue going forward as a French cafe. Chair, the objectors will tell you about noise complaints from the premises. Yet I'm very grateful for your officer who, on page 9C of a report, says that there has been no noise complaints received in the last 24 months. Those are the facts. No noise complaints in 24 months. They'll tell you that people leaving the premises late at night will cause a nuisance. Well, I've just told you, Chair, licensable activity ceases at 21:30, everybody out at the very latest by 10, and you have a maximum capacity of 34. Chair, in the summertime when the parklet outside terrace is used, it's not used in the winter for obvious reasons, but when it is used, it's barely dark at 9:30. So it can't really be constrained as being a noise nuisance, and the amount of people we're talking. This is not a place where people go to sit and drink. People go to sit and have some food and have a glass of wine with their food. It's not that kind of establishment. People who want to go out to drink will go to the pub over the road. They're coming here. My client tells me typically customers use the table or take use of the table for a maximum of about an hour, and then they're gone. They eat, they have a drink, they move on. It's a French-style cafe, and that is how it will operate. It's not operated as stroke wine bar, stroke pub. It seems, Chair, and I mentioned this, your officer kindly mentioned that I wrote to all the objectors when we agreed conditions with environmental health, and just said, look, we've agreed these conditions, maybe you feel you're able to withdraw your representation. Well, we got a number of replies from those objectors. I don't think they made their way into your papers, but I mention this for one simple reason. The problem with a lot of this objection seems to be with the council, and they seem to be using my client as a vehicle to vent their frustration. I quote one that stood out for me quite dramatically in the reply I received, and it says, the council licensing is the major source of problem, in fact. They go on to say, we will need to revert to whatever option we have now to protect the quiet enjoyment of our properties, given that the council disregard our concerns. Sounds to me like a threat, but I mention it simply because my feeling here is the objectors have nothing of any evidence or particular evidence against these premises itself. They are using generalized quotes that alcohol equals trouble, which is nonsense. It's a very lazy assumption. The vast majority of people drink alcohol sensibly. It's the minority that don't, and this premises does not cater to the minority. It seems to be very much we are wanting to complain, so we'll use this application as our vehicle to do so. Chair, there was the legal advisor drafted out suggested conditions and circulated those yesterday. Very grateful for that to be done, and my client is more than happy to accept all of those conditions that have been put forward in full. Many of them I fully accept are rewording of original conditions put in the application, but there are some additional ones there. You'll have had those papers, Chair. I just want it on record that my client is happy to accept all of those. Chair, in conclusion, this is a simple application. Alcohol is served to customers seated at tables by waiter and waitress service. All customers are sat down whilst consumption is taking place. As I said, it is a myth that any alcohol equals problems. It's only the minority we hear about, therefore that's what... It's not a story to say Fred went to the pub, had 2 pints, went home, went to bed. Nobody's interested. What they are interested is Fred went home, went to the pub, got drunk, went home, vandalised a car and beat his wife up. That's the story. I do apologise, but that is the story. It's just in a lazy assumption that alcohol equals problems. As I said, there is no evidence provided specifically to these premises, and in light of that, Chair, I ask that you move grant to the application, as amended slightly this morning by myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, any questions first from the committee? Councillor Rossi?
Yes, if you could help me here. The Montparnasse Cafe, as far as I understand it, is directly below where people live. So what can you do to mitigate against any kind of noise that might emanate, say, when people are leaving or when people are sitting outside? Because you are going from a closing time of 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. I will start and the applicant will come in shortly. I just wanted to remind you that the maximum capacity outside is 16 people. And I'm not blind to the fact that 16 people talking can cause some form of noise. This finishes at 9:30. The nature of a restaurant is people do not sit in the premises till the terminal hour. They come at different times, and there comes a point where a table becomes inoperable at a certain time. So somebody leaves at 9 o'clock, the lady can't then recycle that table and get somebody else in to use it. So people come and go and leave in dribs and drabs. And I think when you get to the end of the evening, you're looking at a handful of people who may be leaving. And as we said earlier in submissions, the outside area is used exclusively in the summertime. It's not used in the wintertime. So I believe any noise will be as a result of people talking at a table. It's not boisterous, it's not leery, it's not loud. That's, as I say, for the pub and other premises. This is a French-style cafe where people will come and just have a glass of wine with food that they're eating. It's not that kind of premises that's going to cause disruption. Inside, as I said, you have a maximum of 18 people, so I don't see an issue in that respect. Would you like to?
Merci. The cafe is vraiment a community hub. Most of our customers, they are actually neighbors and they all know each other. So, for instance, if they come and they have un croque-monsieur with a glass of wine and they talk to each other, I mean, they all know each other. And obviously, if you live in an area, you care about the neighborhood. And we never had any problem. Of course, there's always somebody who would like to complain. It's okay. It's legal, you know, they can do that. But we know each other, and I haven't had any problem for the last 28 years with the neighbors. If there is a problem, they can always come and talk to me, and we always come into a compromise. Ça veut dire, I don't see it happening, and if anything, I am fully responsible for whatever happened. My staff are well trained. Some of them, they live locally, the young people from the neighborhood, and I don't really see the problem with us. We have a pub at the corner, we have a Grotto, the Italian restaurant that stay late, we have Automezzo, the other side, that stays late. We all work together as we are small businesses, and that's what makes our street really extraordinaire, because it's a small businesses, they come with their little culture and everything, and we all neighbors. I don't see the problem, madam. I do not see it. Merci.
Thank you.
Councillor Benton?
Thank you, Chair. This has actually partly been answered by you yourself, madam. I suppose the part of the function of these licensing hearings, when there have been objections, is whatever the outcome is, whatever we're minded to decide, we do hope to foster actually as good a relationship as possible between the objectors and the applicants. I was a little bit worried at some of the slightly, I thought, antagonistic language that was used, which is a little atypical for this kind of hearing in my experience, which has not been repeated by yourself, and I do understand this is a legal proceeding. So firstly, it was to ask about, moving forward, whatever the decision is, that there is an ongoing spirit of cooperation. There will be meetings with residents and so forth, because I do worry it can quite easily get out of hand, and then people are up in arms quite quickly, especially since, I think, as has been correctly identified, people have a lot of frustrations with the council, and do, and often quite correctly, feel frustrated and take it out where they can. I suppose, since you've sort of somewhat allayed my fear there, I will just ask about noise and nuisance in the later hours from staff leaving, because it's not just the end of the hours. I worked in a lot of places like that, different types of places in my life, and often, actually, a lot of objections you often get, or objections to licenses, are because the staff stay behind and might have a few drinks and take rubbish out later than they're supposed to, and that creates a nuisance. So I was just wondering how aware of this you are, how mindful of it you are.
My staff are really well behaved. Most of them, they have been trained properly not to make noise. In the morning, I'm myself coming to open, so there is no noise to wake up neighbors. And anyone who can say otherwise, it's not true. I'm there every day at 6 o'clock when we have the terrace, and every other day I put myself the chairs so not to make noise for the neighbors. No one ever complained about me opening. My staff, they're young people, maybe you'll hear a laughter, no more. But when they take the furniture, let's say when we have the la terrasse, they take it carefully. Rubbish are not put outside because we were told by the council, so we put it in the back. We have where to put rubbish, and in the morning when the binmen, they come, we take it with them to their van. We don't have problem with my staff. They're all well trained, they all care, and they're all respectable, and they do not want to disturb neighbors. And I will be present most of the time. And there will be a manager when we have the license to control all the activities. Merci.
If I could, in addition, Councillor, just refer you to some of the conditions we agreed yesterday with your legal advisor. There is conditions on rubbish, but the applicant has confirmed that rubbish is kept inside and only taken out in the morning. We have also committed to 2 public meetings with residents on an annual basis, which would be at least 5 months apart. If indeed that is, I think, a good idea, if it is necessary, they will certainly happen. And as you've heard from the applicant, most people know her anyway, but another condition we have for those who don't have access to her, her phone number will be clearly visible on the premises, so people could pick up the phone straight away and say, look, I'm not happy tonight, there's a problem, there's this, whatever. So a lot of avenues have been opened up by the applicant to work with the local neighbourhood to ensure that these premises do not cause any kind of nuisance to the residents.
That's absolutely understood. I also say that those are always conditions we like to add in cases like this. Still things can get out of hand, and I think you seem to have the right attitude. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Just to follow up really quickly, it is important that there haven't been any noise complaints, but there have been, at least anecdotally, people are saying that there is noise in the morning. Now, I do understand that could just be normal noise that comes with just setting up. If you have anything to add to that, we'll bring it up later with the objectors if it comes up. But is there anything you want to respond to there while we have you?
As I said, I open every single day. I work 7 days, so I open every morning. I'm quite responsible. I'm not I'm 60 years old, so I know what I'm doing. I do not disturb anyone. Sometimes there is a noise when we have the window cleaner, that he comes and clean all the shops, and I'm the one who watch them because I take the money for, I pay him and then the other shops will pay me. That's what we do. So there will be maybe a little talk about how to do it again or something, but that is it. No, there is no noise. When we have the terrace, the first 4 tables are closed, which are in front of the building, Abbott, because there are people who live there. On top of our premises, the flat is empty. There's no one there. But the first one, they all close until around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, then they open. Because I don't want noise, I do not want to disturb the neighbors. But we have taken care not to disturb anyone. We have done it. Merci.
Thank you. Many of my questions have been covered already. Just a couple of things. Can you tell us what you will be serving food-wise, drinks-wise? I know you mentioned wine and beer, but will there be other things? Will you have cocktails? What kind of food is going to happen there?
Alors, as you know, we are mainly a bakery, but a bakery that makes croque-monsieur, I'm sure you all know, and quiches. We make our French salad, we make les omelettes and all that. This is what we make. We don't use like a strong cooking, it's all light meal, but it is nice to have a croque-monsieur with a glass of wine. It's really, there's nowhere in France where you go to a French cafe that makes quiches and croque-monsieur salad and you can't have a glass of wine. We didn't do it before because we weren't ready, but now I think we are ready and we are fully responsible for the comfort of our customers, at the same time the safety of our neighbors. We do not want to upset anyone. It's not in our interest because our customers, they are our neighbors. And that is what I see. The food, it is the same, maybe a little addition, but it's not going to be strong cooking or anything, no. Just French style brasserie, that's what it is. Merci.
Thank you. Now, at night, when you're closing, how many staff do you think you'll have there?
Closing time, obviously the kitchen will stop around 9:30. 9:30 is the last order. That's it. So not order for food, but maybe a glass of wine, they can have their last one. The food will be 9, so that is it. If you're eating, you can order the last glass with your food.
No, I think you misunderstood my question. I'm asking how many staff will be there.
Pardon. Alors, les staff, we have obviously 2 waiters upstairs, we have a manager, we have the 3 people downstairs, which is the chef, the sous-chef, and the porter.
And can you ensure that when they are leaving, after you're closing, that they actually leave? They don't stand there joking around, having a cigarette, that sort of thing, because that does add to the noise. Can you ensure that the staff will close and go down the street?
Yes, madam. By 10 o'clock, there will not be one person in the premises and there will be no noise. My staff are very respectful. They would not. I can assure you that. Merci.
Okay, thank you. Now I know our legal officer has a question. Oh, sorry, Councillor Rossi?
I'm just not quite sure when you're serving alcohol. Will that always be with food, or will you sell alcohol by itself?
Oui, madame. It is only with food. We are not a bar, we are not a pub, we are a café. Un café français. That means you eat your quiche, you have your choice of drink, you can have a soft drink, you can have un verre de vin or une bière, whatever you like. But it is not a bar, it's not one bar, it's not a pub, and I do not encourage people just to come and drink. This is not going to happen. It is always going to be with the meal. Merci.
Our legal officer has a question or two.
I think most of the questions can wait to the conditions session. your parklet terrace, is Miss Johnson may be able to answer this question. Do they run from May to October or
March to October.
March to October? Okay, so the parklet terrace is March to October. You also have tables and chairs directly outside the premises. So you've got, I think you said 18 chairs within the parklet terrace, March to October. But then you've also got a tables and chairs licence to place, is it 2 tables and 4 chairs? So outside there's going to be 18, 22, is that correct? Plus the people inside.
Yes, madam, but it's never happened that everything is full. And from the month of September, the terrace is nearly empty. There's hardly anybody sitting. You know the weather. So summertime, we get a few days really nice when the terrace is full, especially the afternoons. But in winter, hardly anybody is sitting. They all sit inside. They do.
Now, Mr. Owen, would you like to ask a question?
I think part of it has been asked, but I was concerned also about the menu, because this is not like a dinner menu. People aren't coming in and having a hamburger or having fish. What do you think the mix is going to be from 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. of these customers? Because it does look to us like, given the very limited bakery menu, people are coming at that hour to have a drink. That's the purpose of being there at that hour.
Thank you for the question. Can I just refer you to my client's statement of literally 2-3 minutes ago that alcohol is only served with food. So nobody can come and just have a glass of wine.
So if somebody comes in and said, we'd like 2 glasses of Chablis,
as I said, the condition we have agreed and will be placed on the license should it be granted, and a breach of that condition would be a serious offence for the applicant. It has to be with food. It's been mentioned here today.
And then the other, I guess, quick comment before I get my turn is I just wanted to clarify. The first floor flat is owned by Mr. Saeed. He also owns a 3rd floor flat. They're largely overseas most of the time, but those flats are continually used on and off. And at the moment, I think the people are not using the 1st floor flat, but they were there for the majority of last year, and it's been completely renovated and prepared for them to use.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Owen, would you like to present your submission? You have up to 10 minutes, please.
Sure. Well, I'm Peter Ryan. I actually live at Abbots Court. I'm on the 2nd floor. I'm also the chairman of the Abbots Court Residents Association. I'm a little disappointed and surprised I'm sitting here all by myself today, but given the timing of this hearing, most of the residents just are either physically out of town or they're in business meetings and can't make it. But I can tell you that universally, everyone in the building is opposed to this application. And before I go into kind of more of the specifics of why we are not supportive of this application, I wanted the council to put this in context of what this application means for us on Thackeray Street and on Abbots Court. And you need to consider the cumulative impact of all these applications. Now, this has always been a very quiet street. Our commercial activity is largely just on the north side of Thackeray Street. But following COVID, the council granted Automezzo the opportunity to have the street platform. That was then followed up by Grotto on the opposite end of the street on the west side facing Kensington Square to make applications to get tables and chairs outside of Grotto. Then Montparnasse, no surprise, asked for an outdoor platform and tables and chairs, which the council granted. But that only runs from 7 to 6 p.m. That has now been followed up by Entrée, which is in between Grotto and Montparnasse, have also applied for an outdoor seating area for next year. And they've also tried to get tables and chairs as well. So where we're heading, and the reason the residents are drawing a line here, is the entire facade of Abbott's Court, all the way down Thackeray Street, all the way around the corner, covering the entire facade, will now have outdoor dining in the summer. And it's just getting to be too much. COVID's ended, but the intensification and commercialization of our pavements and our street continues to intensify. And at some point, what we're asking is for the council to look at this in its totality, and you need to provide some guardrails, and at some point, draw a line to this. Our street is now turning into an all-day dining venue. That's not what Thackeray Street has historically been, and it's not the direction we want to go. Now, in terms of what we're objecting to, and I wanted to kind of clarify a couple of things that have come up with the councilor's questions. The issues here are not the setup. As she said, she's incredibly courteous. She's aware of the neighborhood. She isn't out dragging chairs across the pavement and making a bunch of noise. That's not the issue. The departure of people is not the issue. It's not a pub, so they don't, 50 people aren't stumbling out of a pub at, 10 o'clock at night. What impacts us is the fact that there are outdoor spaces right outside our windows under our building, which will now be the entire facade of constant noise. The residents of my building in particular, they love the cafe. Everybody actually likes you very much. And we have no issue. And even though people have complained on emails and to the Kensington Square Association, people haven't made a giant fuss about their current operations because they're open at 7 and they're closed at 6. Yes, is it inconvenient for us? Do we like the noise outside our windows? Because this is occurring in the summer when all the windows are open and it's right next to us. It's not a disaster. We're trying to be helpful. But having been nice and accommodating, now they're going to reach for more. And that is going to have a material impact on our quality of life. So to give you an idea, with this cumulative granting of all these applications, we've had a cumulative loss of 30% of our residential parking. We've lost 30% of our visitor parking. There's only now like 5 spaces for visitor parking, and that is for all of Thackeray Street and all of Kensington Square. And so we continue to, lose our own amenities. We obviously have increased noise and foot traffic from 7 to 6, but like I said, I think the residents can tolerate that. But we do have to put up with obstructions to the pavement, with all the pedestrians, people with prams, people, with their dog going to the street platforms. The street platforms are also not, well built, so when it rains, it blocks all the water drainage on Thackeray Street. And, whether or not this is approved or not, that issue has to get sorted. And if we continue down this path, there's going to be very limited access to the entrance of Abbott's Court because it's going to be sandwiched with 2 large platforms And the only way to get from the street into Abbot's Court will be going between two platforms. You know, contrary to what's been said, we think the license to sell alcohol is going to contradict the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, and prevention of public nuisance, which is already apparent for us. But like I said, we've been good neighbors. We haven't made a big stink about it. And the approval to operate and sell alcohol, you know, until 10 p.m. right outside our windows is going to result in a change of business and a change of clientele for this applicant. It's a bakery. People aren't coming to go to a bakery at 9 o'clock at night. They're coming to stop by to have a drink. And it's just going to exacerbate the disturbance. And I think everybody can put up with it until 6, but when it starts going into 10 p.m. at night, you know, that's impacting our life significantly. So what we would like to see the council do is, if you're going to renew the application for the outdoor platform, do so on the same hours of operation. We can live with having 20-some people sitting outside our windows all day long, but at 6 o'clock it's got to end. And if they want to have an alcohol license, fine, but that should be restricted to indoor service. If people want to come and have a glass of wine, they can sit inside and have a glass of wine. We don't want them sitting out on the terraces drinking all afternoon. So that's pretty much my summary.
Thank you very much. Now, any questions from the committee? Councillor Rossi?
Yes, Mr. Owen, I understand that you are kind of in general worried about the whole neighbourhood of Thackeray Street and how it's developing. But have you actually had any specific problems with the Montparnasse Cafe in the past?
Yeah, just a constant level of noise outside my window from 7 to 6 p.m.
A constant level of noise?
It's an incredibly popular place.
Okay.
You know, I have no issue. It's a great cafe. It's hugely popular. It's been there for 20-some years. Everybody knows it. And a lot of people in the greater neighborhood go there. And so it isn't going to be, you know, an empty space. During the summer, it's full.
Okay.
And their platform covers 2 of my kids' bedrooms and my living room. And when the summer, you got the windows open, you are listening to a constant chatter of people having coffee and eating croissants.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Benton?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I think the thing that's interesting but quite complicated is this issue of intensification.
Is what?
Intensification,
yes.
Right? Now, you know, we're actually quite limited in what we can and can't rule on in this particular committee. I was actually, I suppose, curious. You know, has your residents' association or yourself have actually considered making this case to, you know, your ward councillors, something, because we have a quite strict remit, you know, and there are things that are at the level of policy, for example, that we can't touch, or we can't legally consider. I don't know that this is obviously why we have a legal officer with us to tell us what we can.
Yeah, well, like I said, up to this point, yes, people grumble because there's noise outside their windows. It hasn't been intolerable because it's one street platform. The Grotto does not have a street platform. They just have a small selection of tables and chairs. And even though the people that live directly above it, you know, are disturbed occasionally, it isn't 20-some people sitting on a platform. For me, I actually have to suffer a bit more noise because it's right in front of my flat. But I like the cafe. I actually like all the businesses, and we try to be supportive. I'm not going to, and most of the residents clearly have not elevated to a bunch of formal complaints because it's a nuisance, but it's not intolerable. But that's because there's no alcohol and it closes at 6.
If I could just to be extra clear, I think you have said it. I just your real ask, your ultimate ask, your main ask is not that they don't get any alcohol license at all. It's that they keep the same operating hours, but you can live with them having an alcohol license within those hours.
Yeah, I suppose if we create waterfalls of desire, the first desire would be, fine, you can approve the street platform, but it's on the same hours, absolutely. And the alcohol is served inside the premises. Second choice would be you grant them the license and they can serve it between 7 and 6. So if somebody wants to come and have a croque monsieur for lunch and a glass of wine, you know, okay, I know most of the clientele there, they're not a bunch of, you know, rogues. They're not going to be causing a huge amount of ruckus just because they had a glass of wine. But combined, absolutely, we don't want this noise continuing through the night until 10 p.m., alcohol or no alcohol, but definitely not with alcohol. And again, maybe this is not the way you look at things, but we have to live with the cumulative damage that these applications create. And we already have been on notice that Entree is going to open. So we will be 100% surrounded with all this outside dining. And if you grant an alcohol license to Montparnasse and operating till 10 p.m., you're going to be hard pressed to say no when Entree comes and asks for the same thing. And we're going to have outdoor dining and drinking around the entire building until 10 p.m. I don't have to do a study. I can tell you that is going to be massively disruptive to Abbott's Court. And that's what we're asking you to do, is stop the intensification of this. This was all started with COVID, and now it is going too far.
I understand. I sympathise with your point. And just as a note at the end of that, I would say, you know, we have, given the limits of specific licensing hearings, I would really strongly recommend that you sort of get on this with your ward councillors or any other, you know, if this is an ongoing issue of intensification, I would just recommend taking it beyond this hearing, whatever the result ends up being.
Well, I think you guys control the intensification of commercializing the outdoor area of our neighborhood by granting or not granting this application. And like I said, we can live with having the 7 to 6 operating hours, but it's a completely different kettle of fish when it starts to be, starts going till 10 at night, combined with the service of alcohol. I mean, it is for us a step too far, and we need guidelines and some boundaries on this, or we know it will not stop.
Thank you.
Can I just jump in here quickly? The council doesn't currently have a cumulative impact zone, unlike Westminster. So we have to consider each case on its merits, and until it does have a cumulative impact zone, then what you're saying, they can't take into account cumulative impact, unfortunately. So this case will have to be decided on its merits.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, do you have a relationship with Ms. Laidi? Can you speak with her if there's an issue? Is there engagement between you and the tenants and the management of Montparnasse? Or do you feel that she's approachable?
Yeah, I think most people have a relationship with her because most people at one point or another have probably been in the patisserie. But I don't want, again, I guess I would advise the council not go down this path because if the idea is, well, we can just talk about it when it becomes a problem, the cat's already out of the bag. And if it is, and then it is our problem. And what we're trying to do is stop this from becoming a problem. And it is just common sense to realize that having 20-some people at Montparnasse, another 20 people at Entree, plus the people at Grotto, all eating outside till 10 o'clock at night, is going to materially impact the quality of our life.
Right. Grotto is around the corner from you, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think they only have one table outside. They're only allowed one table outside because
Yeah,
it's on the square.
I've lost track of what they're allowed because there was a period they were cheating and putting, chairs across the jewelry store as well. But it isn't 20 people. It's only a small number of tables and chairs. And I think they're only tables of 2. So it is generally, although the people that live over it do grumble about it, it is by design slightly quieter because it is typically just couples sitting at 2 tables and next to each other, having dinner. It isn't the same as having 16 to 20 people packed into an outdoor platform, all talking, eating, and making noise.
Okay, and are you familiar with your remedies to complain? Because we don't have any complaints.
Yeah, I know, I do realize that, and I was trying, I have not specifically spoken to residents. I can only speak for myself. And I'm trying not to be a high maintenance person and a difficult neighbor for our commercial tenants. It's annoying, but not to the element where I want to cause her distress and problems. So far, yes, it's a bunch of noise, but it closes at 6. Okay, by the time I'm going to have dinner and go to bed, it's all dispersed.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Now, any questions from our legal officer?
Thank you. I just wanted clarity. When you were speaking earlier on, when you say street platforms, I presume you mean the outdoor terraces on the carriageway.
Yes.
So there's the street platforms, and also there's some premises which also have tables and chairs directly outside on the pavement.
Yes.
Can you just remind me which premises had street platforms during the summer?
This year it was Automezzo and Montparnasse were the only ones with street platforms. Entree has applied to have one for next year, which is right next to Montparnasse. And I think Grotto has applied for it in the past, but it's always been turned down because given the location of their shop, the council won't let them have a
Was that Otto?
platform.
Did you say Otto? Which premises was that you said?
Grotto?
Grotto, sorry.
Yeah.
And what about Otto down the other end?
Automezzo?
Yeah.
Yes, they were the first to get a street platform.
Okay, so this premises and Otto this current year had street platforms.
Yes.
Okay. And then some of the other premises additionally have tables and chairs directly outside
Yes.
the premises. Okay. My second question, in terms of alcohol inside the premises, I know you said that you want alcohol outside to stop at 6. What is your view on the times on alcohol inside the premises?
It's the activity inside the cafe is actually quite quiet. You can't really hear it. So if they were serving alcohol inside, I don't think it'd make a
So it's the inside's not an issue, it's the outside. Okay.
All of this is about the intensification of the outside area, which is all right outside our windows.
One last question. Obviously, in terms of tables and chairs or pavement licences for all the outside area, obviously that's not that's dealt with by the Highways Department, so that's a separate pavement licence. Even if they didn't have alcohol, but the Highways Department, say for example, gave them a licence till 10 o'clock, obviously this isn't something that this committee could regulate if there was no alcohol. What is your view on people drinking outside without alcohol? Because I think you mentioned earlier on that you opposed it going from 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. regardless of whether there was alcohol or not.
Yeah, I think that is probably the one point of this application everyone is opposed to, is extending the hours from 6 to 10.
So regardless of alcohol or not, you just unilaterally...
With or without alcohol, having people outside your bedroom window from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. every day is a step too far.
Okay, thank you. That's my questions, thank you.
Does the applicant have any questions? Mr. Gibson?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, sir. Currently, as we stand right now, are there other premises on the street that have outside seating in the evenings?
Yes, the Automezzo does.
Yeah.
And then Otto has a couple of tables and chairs.
Okay, do those people disturb you?
Well, Automezzo, from where I am, no, because it is at the opposite end of the street.
So you have no disturbance from people using the outside tables. I hesitate to say drinking. They may be drinking, they may be eating, they may be whatever. But you have no problems with people using the outside seating in other venues as it stands right now?
As it stands right now, because it's 150 yards away from me, I'm not disturbed by the Builder's Arms, which is also a pub, but it's a block and a half away from where we live. So it's not really relevant. I think what I'm talking about in particular is the impact it's having on Abbott's Court.
Okay.
Because Montparnasse is directly under Abbott's Court.
Okay.
And as is Entree, as is Grotto.
Okay, those premises that you mentioned that are open in the evening, they have resident properties above them?
Which ones?
The ones that you mentioned that are open, that
Automezzo?
yeah, that sell at night time at the moment?
I believe there are, yes.
Okay, and yet, Chair, there are no complaints from those people. Just one final question, if I may, and it's just to clarify. I think you have answered this. In your submissions, you've said some very nice things about my client. You're saying you like the cafe, everyone likes the cafe, they like the lady. So you've got no issues with my client's premises at the moment? You've no concerns of how they operate?
No concerns about how
Thank
they
you.
operate.
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you. No more questions.
At this stage, I'd like to ask our legal officer to deal with the draft conditions and any other queries she may have.
Thank you, Chair. Have you had sight of the draft conditions that were circulated yesterday? Obviously, this discussion is only if the councillors are minded to grant, so it's without prejudice. It's just something that we go through. Right, number one. So if anybody's got anything to say, if you could chip in, please. Are you happy with number one? Thank you. Mr. Owen, if you have got anything to say, please let me know. Right, in terms of number two, right, you've said that the off sales are just going to be confined to the external terrace and it won't be, other ordinary.
Correct. No
off-sales.
traditional off sales, as in, can I take a bottle of wine home to watch I'm going to watch a film, can I take a bottle of wine home?
Okay, so
Not interested in that.
I can craft a condition which basically restricts off sales to just that area then?
Yes.
Okay.
Certainly.
And you also said that, I mean, as it stands, 2A just restricts alcohol to seated customers served by waiter-waitress service, but you said it would always be with food. Are you agreeable to having the words "and ancillary to a meal"?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Right, number 3, I didn't make any changes, so that was okay. Number 4, are you okay with the tweaked wording? I've kind of separated the inside from the outside, the
Yep.
on-sales and the off-sales. Number 5, I didn't change. Number 7, rubbish, refuse and deliveries. You okay with that?
Yep.
Obviously number 8, the committee will determine the hours. Number 9, are you happy with the CCTV and signage conditions?
Yes.
We jump to number 14. Are you happy with the Challenge 25 notice and refusals record?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Number 15, dedicated telephone number for DPS duty manager. I think
Yes.
you said you're okay with that. And number 16, subject to any necessary pavement licence. So I've kind of separated that into the directly outside the premises and the
Parklet.
Parklet terrace. You happy with that?
Yes, we are.
And then number 17, residents' meetings twice a year and notifying ward councillors and Kensington Square Residents Association. Should I add in Abbots Court Residents Association as well into that, Mr. Owen?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So it's,
But, you know, again, I don't find that a massive remedy, but
no, okay. Abbots Court Residents Association. Were there any other conditions that have cropped up, or any other issues that have cropped up during the course of the hearing which might need to be conditioned?
Would you be amenable, if we were able to grant this, would you accept an earlier license on several nights of the week? I walked down the street the other day on Thackeray, and on a Monday night it's absolutely dead. So, for example, would you take an earlier license on a Sunday or Monday, or?
Chair, can I clarify, is this what this for the outside seating you're talking of?
Yes.
As the gentleman has said, inside, he doesn't hear anything.
No, I'm talking about licensable hours.
For the outside seating, yeah.
Yes.
Could I just confer with my client?
Are you talking about inside and outside though? Because he's thinking you're just talking about the Parklet.
Oh, no, it would be inside and outside. So let's say on a Monday night or something like that.
Thank you for your patience, Chair. My client is willing to, if you're talking about inside and outside, she's saying on a Monday and Tuesday, the terminal hour for licensable activity could be 8 p.m, but she would want to stick to the application of 9:30 Wednesday through to Sunday.
Mr. Owen, any comments or questions? Turn your mic on, please.
sorry. I appreciate the gesture, but I think the residents are going to be quite resolute that they don't want this going past 6 o'clock, because that becomes incredibly disruptive.
Thank you. Do you have any further questions? regarding the conditions?
No, I've read through the, the updated, conditions, and, a lot of it is very focused on managing the service of alcohol. And, I think I can only speak from myself. That is kind of my secondary issue. The primary issue is controlling the intensification and expansion of hours till 10 p.m. And really trying to avoid service of alcohol, outside.
Thank you. Councillor Rossi, you had an additional?
If I could just ask our legal representative, would it be possible to put some kind of informative to make sure that the entrance to Abbott's Court was kept clear?
Yes, we can certainly put an informative. How many entrances are there to Abbott's Court? Is there one on Thackeray Street? And there's not one on Kensington Square itself?
No, well, there's, I suppose technically, there's a gate on the other side of goes Grotto, jewelry store, and there's a gate that goes to the back of the building.
Okay.
But that's not really an entrance because you'd have to climb the fire escape, to
Okay,
get.
so your primary concern is the entrance near the
Yes.
premises not being blocked by any tables and chairs. Obviously, it was not something we would condition, but it was something we could add as an informative just to make it clear the committee's, concerns that there isn't any obstruction to Abbott's Court. Is that okay on your side? Thank you.
Do our licensing officers have anything to add?
No, Chair.
Thank you. And our governance officers?
Nothing from us, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Well, thank you. We've reached the end of our meeting. The committee now has all the information needed, and we will retire to make our decision in private session. We will not announce the decision today. Instead, the hearing will be closed. A summary determination will be sent to the parties within 5 working days of today's hearing. How does that work out with Christmas? Do we?
So what's today? So if you by next Wednesday, we'll try to
Wednesday's
get it out by
Christmas.
Wednesday's Christmas. We'll get it out by Tuesday.
Okay. And a full decision will follow as soon as possible thereafter. The time limit for appealing the decision will not commence until the full decision has been sent to the parties. Thank you all for attending, and have a lovely holiday season. The hearing is now closed.